Howdy, welcome back. Tonight's movie is The Final Cut. Now we'll start off by saying that the DVD back thing does say that this is like a thriller or suspense, or it uses those words. I don't know if I 100% agree with that now that I've seen it. Because to tell you the truth, I'd never seen this. I saw the beginning of it one time a while ago, and after seeing them, well, what are your thoughts? I guess we'll start off the standard way.
Somehow a shitty B-budget movie got Robin Williams. Good for them. That's about it. But even he couldn't save this movie.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that same boat. Like, I like the premise. I think it's a really cool, interesting premise.
The Final Cut.
And
So
the
there's
setup is
implants
good.
in your eyes from before birth somehow. And they capture every moment, and then these funeral directors called cutters stitch together a 2-second movie of your life at the end of it, and they see everything, and there's people that don't like that. Here's my big thing. I checked out real quick after this movie started because the computer that they use, called the Guillotine, to edit everything, when they're uploading the file, first of all, the file is on something teeny tiny, and that's your whole life's memory. All that video, all that audio condensed into that one little tiny thing, and then it gets put in the computer, which easily sorts through everything. Like, they went through this whole scene, like, love,
That would have
and
to be
greed,
the best
and
AI
hate,
in the world.
Okay, so when that happened, and this computer cut all of those little bits and pieces into these individual scenes and categorized them, I was like, check it out. Because what they could do is program all the bad things to automatically delete so no one ever sees it.
Well, for me, it wasn't even that did it for me. That is a bit ridiculous, because if the AI can interpret and sort all those things, it should also be able to filter out the ones you don't want people to see. You know, cut out the masturbation, cut out all the crimes they committed and the whatever.
Right.
But no, for me, there were so many just plot holes and inconsistencies and just things that don't make sense. If you live in a world where people have this, and they do mention that 1 in 20 people, or 1 in 10, whatever it was, a lot of people have this camera in their head that records everything, because this was obviously pre-smartphones, because that's reality now. We all do have that. But
2004.
If
there
you-
were smartphones then, weren't there?
no, that was the year after we graduated high school. We're way older than smartphones. But if enough people in the world have this kind of thing that's common, everything about the world would change to respond to that. Like, there wouldn't just be a couple protesters here and there saying, hey, cutters are bad. Like, so many things in the world would change because these exist. For one, when he's walking down the street and there's plastered literally every inch of wall space advertising them, that's dumb. If tech like this exists, everyone in the world is aware. You never need to advertise once.
Right.
The world is aware.
Everyone knows Black Lives Matter right now, and there's
no
nowhere
signs.
near that many signs on everything, everywhere you go. It was just this company's.
Yeah. Well, plus, if you have this kind of surveillance tool and this way of seeing everything and knowing everything that happens, it's not one single private company doing it, and it's not something you opt into and pay for. They're forcing this on every citizen, regardless of whether you want it or not. It will be implanted. And then another huge thing, and this is plot pivotal, is that Alan, the main cutter, by the way, Robin Williams is named Alan in multiple movies.
I was thinking that the whole time. I'm just
Me too.
thinking Jumanji the whole time.
But he has the camera thing, and his parents never told him, whatever, and that's an issue. But if it's such a big deal that cutters aren't supposed to have them, you'd figure the company that hires cutters would scan for them. There
Right.
has to be a way to detect it.
Right.
And I know they try to explain that away when the guy's like, they're practically indetectable. But if you're
He should
able to
say-
block it with this little tattoo, then you can also detect it with some sort of technology.
Right. Practically indetectable and 100% indetectable are two very different things.
Yeah. So, I don't know. There's a lot of just major fallacies of this. There's
the
things
end,
that
when-
don't work.
In the end, when Robin Williams dies, you see his hand shaking, and then when they cut to the view through the camera in his eyes, it's a steady hand, and then it cuts back to his hand shaking.
Not only that, but if
crazy
it cuts
again.
back to him, his hand is down here. And I know it's looking where his eyes look, not where he looks, but just perspective it's not Like, you'd
Right.
see his nose.
Right there.
Actually,
so much.
That's a
enjoyed
huge
this
thing
movie.
that bothers me, and I know we're on tangents, and this is long for no reason. Moral of the story, the movie's bad, but I need to nitpick now. Anyone familiar with VR technology, specifically people that have used it or played it or looked into the tech, one of the first things everyone realized is that you will get dizzy and you will feel nauseous while playing it. I know in my game reviews, I know I made you try it and a bunch of other people try it. And like my mother was one person who got pretty sick with it real quick. And there was a company that studied this, and the big thing that they realized is one of the reasons this happens to people is because in the VR, you can't see your nose. And all of us in our lives, we don't do it knowingly, but we're always aware of our nose. We can always see it, and we can use that to kind of triangulate everything around us. It's a constant while everything else moves. You need that in your field of vision. If you were to remove it and it's not there anymore, your brain won't process vision the same. So it's important that it's there, and it's always there. In this movie, when they're watching all this footage, you never see it in any of the footage. There's
Right.
not a cutaway where it would be.
Right.
There's no compensation. There's no distortion
Right.
where they removed it. It's just not there.
Like I can see the top ridge of my brow. Sometimes I can see like an eyebrow sticking out or something
Yeah.
like that.
And I know
Nothing. It was just nice, crystal clear the whole time.
And I know you pointed out too, there were times where watching in the footage, the person is looking in a mirror and they blink. Well, you would never see a blink. The camera would do that too. So you would either have little black spots constantly,
Right.
or the camera would intelligently remove those and you would never see blinks in the footage.
Right.
Either way, it's wrong.
Right.
And when the kid is born with the implant already in him, and like you said, I don't know how that happens, but let's assume they figure a way to have that happen, your eyesight doesn't focus right away. You don't know how to use your eyes when you're born. It's not instinctual. You know, your eyes are very watery and blurry. Anyone who's ever seen a newborn baby, half the time their eyes aren't open. And when they are, like, their eyes are full of tears and just wonky because they don't know what they're doing yet. They don't know how to focus their retinas. They've never used that muscle. They've just finished developing that muscle. So that camera wouldn't focus either. If your brain doesn't know how to interpret video yet, then the footage coming into this chip wouldn't either. So there's a lot of things that don't make sense. But even if you take all the nitpicks aside and you have entirely 100% suspension of disbelief, the movie's just not super interesting.
No. Yeah.
The pacing's kind of weird. It's kind of slow. Aside from Alan, none of the characters get any real growth or development or characterization. They're all just one-dimensional people that serve one specific purpose in the plot.
Even his, it was so cliche. I knew it was coming before
Yeah.
it ever happened. It was just,
Yeah,
and it was terrible. I mean, not to typecast Robin Williams because he's Robin Williams, but to see him in a non-funny role like that.
see, and it's weird. I've seen him in other serious roles,
But this one wasn't.
And
This one wasn't.
he's
Didn't-
good.
It didn't work.
but yeah, this
It
one,
didn't work.
he probably wasn't the best actor for that role, honestly. Like, I do love Robin Williams, and in everything else he's in, except for maybe Bicentennial Man, which is also crap. But in the majority of everything else he's in, he's just amazing. In any role, in every capacity,
Yeah.
he's great.
Yeah.
In here, that was just a bad cast. Honestly,
Yeah.
like you said, it felt like a B-budget movie, and they should have went for a B-budget actor and maybe spent more on the writing.
Right.
Because it wasn't great. Everything about this just kind of falls flat.
I'm having a real time. I want to give it a 3 out of 10, but I feel like for me that's even being generous.
I feel like I could maybe justify a 3 just
I
for
won't.
his performance.
Yeah,
Because he did do a good enough job with what he was working with. He was believable enough in the role. Like I said, it might not have been the best role for him, but he did the best he could with the role, so the acting was good. The writing was not, the story was not, the characters were not, but the actors actually portraying what they were given did a good job. So
And
I can give it a 3, maybe on that.
There's so much I want to go back and nitpick about this movie. Like, when did this take place in the world? Because technology would be way more advanced. But I don't want to do that because
That's the
it
other
would
thing.
be
Like I
another
said,
long ass.
Once
video
smartphones
is
came into
just-
the world, this movie could never be made, because that's what we all do
Like,
right
look
now
at
anyway.
look at Google and Amazon smart devices now. There have been numerous news stories where they catch, domestic abuse and violence and murder on the thing, but the Google people can't use it
Ring
as
cameras. Police now can requisition those without even asking, and can basically get a neighborhood-wide net of surveillance.
Yeah, and everybody in this movie is flipping out, but nobody in the real world cares about cell phones always tracking you. Google and Amazon shit always tracking
No.
you.
People
It's
bring
just-
those things into their house. I have 2 of them. There's one in the room right now. Alexa, say hi.
You bitch.
Hello.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah, this certainly doesn't stand up to the test of time. This does not work in the world anymore, and it's just not great.
There were cell phones back when we were in high school.
There were cell
they're-
phones. They didn't have cameras or
No.
any kind of technology that could lead to this.
No. But there were cell phones. I fucking hate this movie so much.
It's not the worst movie I've ever seen. It's not even the worst movie we've seen in a marathon.
No.
But the
It's
premise was
just-
good enough, and they had an A-list actor that I really would have expected more. So it's certainly a disappointment. It is below average, and if you can avoid it, you should. It's not a good use of time.
It's not.
And that's it, because otherwise we're just going to ramble and nitpick further. So we'll see you tomorrow for a pretty much guaranteed to be better movie.